Basically, we make electronic ink tattoos. Right. But the purpose of the electronic ink tattoo is actually to apply it to food supply animals to identify and track them as they move throughout the food supply chain.
I was raised on a cattle farm in southwest Missouri. I grew up in the industry, and I always heard my father speaking of the problems that were happening in the industry with identification, and him being a very small producer, you know, he was really feeling the economic hit from it. And so I knew that, you know, whenever someone's getting pinched economically, there's an opportunity there.
I was in New York at a consulting firm. He was in Europe doing his graduate work in condensed matter physics, which is, I know I don't, I couldn't really explain it for you either. And he called me and said, hey, I've invented a new technology with my professor, and I have an idea for an application. Do you want to start another company? Well, Ramus was a born and raised cattle rancher from southwest Missouri, turned computer scientist, turned condensed matter physicist. So, you know, we moved back to St. Louis in the fall of '05 to start the company. It's been a wild circus ever since.
On a whim, I ended up doing my master's work in Europe, and you know, how else am I going to convince my farmer parents to let me go play in Europe? Oh, I'm going to get my master's, right?
We enable the industry to have a better way to identify and track their animals.
The other person is Mark. You know, he has all the things that I don't have.
You know, it's funny. I'll never forget. Ramus and I we were driving to the airport one day. I think I was driving him to drop him off for a flight, and we kind of had the realization that without him, I'd have nothing to do, and he without me, he'd never get anything done. So we realized that we have some pretty complementary strengths and weaknesses.
He's very good at leading people. He's very good at leading people, and it's just not my personality to lead. I prefer to kind of do my own thing. I prefer to kind of be off in the clouds and, you know, kind of thinking and trying to figure out problems. And, you know, he's all about getting the most out of people, pushing them, and I've learned a lot about that.
I don't have a tattoo to date. I think Ramus will probably be the first one to have one on himself.
It's always nice to be recognized. Starting a business is very difficult. Starting a business in the Midwest, a technology business in the Midwest, with this crazy idea of, you know, electronic tattoo. Nobody's ever heard of this. You know, nobody really thinks about where their food comes from. So it doesn't have the buzz that, say, a software company would have. But I think it's really cool that, you know, we've persevered this far, come through some very tough times, and we're still here to actually win an award.